So the urban markets aren't doing well at all. There may be some operators that are just getting by, but no one's thriving from what I can tell in cities. In the what we call drive-in markets, which are outside of major cities, an hour, 2 hour, 3 hour drive from the major cities, are doing extremely well.
It's my pleasure to welcome Eric Moeller. He is the founder of Short-Term Rental Legends, and a lot of people have expressed interest in short-term rentals and the industry and what it's doing. So we're going to get a bird's eye view. There's a lot of changes, a lot of things changing. A lot of people have really had to pivot their business, and I'm looking to hearing more. Eric, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you. So give us the bird's eye view on the short-term rental industry. A lot has changed, hasn't it?
Yeah. It's been 2020 has been it's been a roller coaster of a year, not only for everybody. I mean, but obviously the short-term rental industry is one of the first industries to get hammered by the lockdowns, right? The global lockdowns. The first thing countries stopped doing and restricted was travel. So obviously most of our business is ran off of travel, especially international travel. So yeah. Early in the year, the short-term rental industry seemed like it was collapsing. Then we spent a few months really kind of studying and seeing where the new trends of travel is leading and how this industry was going to pull out of it. And it's kind of blossomed this new version of short-term rentals. So yeah, there's a couple of rabbit holes we can get into there, but we watch literally in 1 year time span, the industry collapse, us thinking Airbnb, the company, was going to collapse. Hosts, from all around the world was pulling off of Airbnb and just, was fed up with the company on how they were dealing with the COVID situation, all the way to now a new type of traveler, a new length of stay, new different types of business models within short-term rentals, all the way to, what was it, last week, 2 weeks ago, Airbnb filing their IPO and being valued at $100 billion. So it's been a crazy, crazy year, man.
Yeah. Well, I think what it proves, let me ask you. So it's been a crazy year. I got that. But overall, for you and other short-term rental operators, how's business? If I'm just going to ask, is it good? Is it half of what it was the year before? Is it off 25%, like revenue, not activity, revenue?
Sure. Yeah. So two major things happen. One is urban operators, and that's really where Airbnb and the whole short-term rental boom really took off in the last few years. Are individuals, investors, operators taking over full buildings and apartments and condos in center cities around the world. Those urban markets, which were doing extremely well pre-COVID, have pretty much collapsed. Right? People don't want to be in the city right now. No one's traveling to the city. The reasons for you to go to cities are all shut down. Restaurants shut down, all of that stuff. There's no events, things like that. So the urban markets aren't doing well at all. There may be some operators that are just getting by, but no one's thriving from what I can tell in cities. In what we call drive-in markets, which are outside of major cities, an hour, 2 hour, 3 hour drive from the major cities, are doing extremely well. The operators that are in our mastermind SDR Legends that are in like mountain towns, lake towns, deserts, beach towns are having the best year they've ever had. Expanding, getting more units, higher occupancy, and higher rates as well. And what's interesting is we watched the average stay of a guest on Airbnb go from 3 days upwards of 9 days now. And there's certain markets where that has doubled, where it's 2 weeks, 20 days, things like that. So that just means more money, more occupancy, and the ability to continue to scale.
And how much lower is that rate for the extended stay typically? Is the operator of that unit cutting the rate by 20%, 25% for the longer stay? Or How's that working out?
Yeah. Again, short-term rentals, like anything else in real estate, right? Depends on the market and the asset. But we're seeing anywhere between 20% and 50% on a monthly basis. For example, I'm currently in New Jersey. I rented an Airbnb here, 4-bedroom, got my parents together. We flew out from California and we're here for the month of December. And I've been doing this. I've been renting an Airbnb for 30 days for the last 6 months and living in different markets around the country. This property we rented for 50% of listing for the entire month, right? So, and this is consistent across all the properties we stayed in. So you'll see that. You'll see discounts anywhere between 20 in urban markets. You'll see upwards of 80% where hosts just want to get somebody in there to pay the debt. But yeah, on average, I would say 20 to 50%.
Now, and was that a result of you negotiating with the host, or was that just something they'd offered on the website?
Yeah, so Airbnb, one of the biggest pivots for Airbnb was stepping into 30-day stays, right? So this is something that they never really offered before. So now on Airbnb, they have a section when you go to search a property, you punch in where you want to go, the dates, all of that, and then they give you options. Do you want what are the dates, or do you want a monthly stay, or do you want a room share? Right. And now this 30-day stay, if you book a property for 28 days or more, they work in certain discounts already. So especially now, right? I'm in New Jersey. I'm in Long Beach Island. It's a seasonal market. So all the properties down here are completely empty during the winter. So he's happy to get somebody in here for the month. Right. So he already put up on the market, if you book this, I'll give you a 40% discount. I reached out to him and said, hey, this is my budget for the month. Can you meet this? And he said, yep. Okay, come on out. I'll be happy to have you.
Yeah.
I was like, all right.
Right.
A little bit of negotiation, but I wouldn't, for anybody who wants to use this as a way to travel, all of that, I wouldn't go down the path of hard negotiations with hosts. That's something that we had to deal a lot with this year due to COVID. A lot of people were just negotiating rates. We already build in rates based on revenue management methods. So if you see a good rate that's on there and they're offering a discount for the monthly stay or whatever that is, you could knock off a little bit, but I wouldn't go in there try to get it for pennies on the dollar.
Right. So, what's so interesting about what you said about do you call it driving markets or drive-in markets? What was the exact phrase?
Yeah, like drive-in movie.
Oh, drive-in, like a drive-in movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Because I didn't have a name for it, but back in late February, early March, I predicted that. And I just basically said that, look, we have our one short-term rental market, St. Augustine, Florida. And I thought of it like this, Eric. It's so interesting that it actually happened too, because I said, any Airbnb that is in a place where people can drive to, so 4 hours or less generally is kind of what I consider a drive, right? If it's over that, then it's like you got to think about it, okay? But 4 hours people will do. And if they can get a different experience from where they live currently. In other words, if they live in Atlanta or Orlando and they go to St. Augustine, Florida, they've got a really, truly different experience. They feel like they're on vacation, right? Mm-hmm. So it can't necessarily be from, I live in Orange County, California, where I used to live, and I'm going to go get an Airbnb in San Diego. Now that is different, sure, but it's not dramatically different, right? It's still like you're at the beach in both places, maybe, right? So would you say that held true? Is my interpretation correct?
100%. So are you familiar with Chip Conley?
Yes. He wrote a couple of books, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
He wrote Peak, which is his one of my favorite books.
I read those years ago. Yeah, it's a long time ago.
Yeah. So he's also a personal advisor, mentor to Brian Chesky of Airbnb. Mm-hmm. And he worked as the head of hospitality, global hospitality for Airbnb for, 7 years or so. He was on our mastermind when everything started shutting down, right? So when the whole industry came to this place where we have no idea if short-term rentals is even going to exist or Airbnb is going to exist after this. And he kind of coined this phrase that I'm currently living and doing myself, which is called home instead of home. right? So before we heard, home away from home type of travel mindset. Now what COVID has created in the travel industry is home instead of home. So to your point exactly is individuals, families, couples, they want to leave the city. They want to get out of a dense populated area and get into nature-filled markets. But they want to also tap into properties where they have the comforts of home. So literally, I run my business, my health routines, everything is exactly the same as if I was living home in San Diego. But I've been living in Boise, Idaho, Park City, Utah, Austin, Texas, and now Long Beach Island, and creating my home here instead of at home, right? So these markets where you can drive outside the major cities, get into nature, because if you're in the city and you're locked down in an apartment or a condo, you have nothing.
It's not fun. Yeah.
It's driving you crazy, right? You can't go out to the city, walk around, experience
well, not
anything.
Just that. You may have a Joe Biden campaign rally going on. I mean, a riot. Right. I mean, a Joe Biden campaign rally. Same thing. Yeah.
lots of crazy things happening in cities right now.
Right. Yeah.
People want to get away from it, man. They want to disconnect, but they also have a job to do. They're working from home. Right. And they have their routine.
And by the way, I should say with my last comment, this is post-election, but the president still has not been truly decided for sure. So
crazy, right?
I just wanted to make sure people knew this was a contemporary interview. Okay. There's still debate about who the president should be. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy right now. 2020 has been a year for the history books, right?
No question. Yeah.
Especially for this industry. And this is why I love this industry so much is like and you said this yesterday on the mastermind, it's just like we're a room full of industry full of problem solvers and able to pivot and able to figure out these new trends. And it happened really, really quick. So to kind of loop back to your point, yeah, these secondary markets, these drive-in markets are doing incredibly well. And not just here in the States, on a global basis.
How much better are they doing revenue-wise than they were a year earlier, for example?
Yeah, so I would say they're probably closing out this year right around the same because everyone got hit so hard in the beginning with the lockdowns.
And then there were these rules that, you had to leave space in between guests, or I wanted to say tenants, but guests, right? Yes, yeah. You had to leave a day or two between them where they said you had to keep it vacant, right? There were crazy things like that. Yeah, go ahead.
And even just full lockdowns, right? But for example, we have, markets in like Joshua Tree, California, Ottawa, California, all the national parks around the country. Even in Australia, we have a lot of hosts that are in Australia in our group. Markets outside of the major cities, like this one market, Orange, is doing extremely well. They're doing 90 to 100% occupancy across all their properties, right? And their rates might be slightly lower, but the occupancy catches up for that because prior to COVID, we're running these higher rates at a 70% occupancy, but now you have a 90 to 100% occupancy. So they're doing extremely well. And that's that's going into our new business model. So I shifted from being the urban operator running 100 short-term rentals in these cities to now going into 2021, we are launching a new property brand where we're going to actually be acquiring land outside national parks and building experience-based tiny home communities because people want to, outside of the home instead of home, they want to have that experience, right? They want to tap into nature. They want to have unique experiences, and they have the ability, if it's set up for workplace, they have the ability to travel, work, and live somewhere else for a bit. So that's our new market, new plan that we're tapping into. So yeah, there's a lot going on in the industry. Those secondary markets are extremely exciting.
Another thing I wanted to ask you about is the comment you made earlier about how people were upset with Airbnb. And I think I know what you're going to say, but I'll just tee it up a little bit with my own opinion since you're in the business. Maybe you don't want to say some of this stuff, but you can comment on what I say. I view a lot of these big tech companies as these like virtue signaling companies that give away other people's money. And, Airbnb has done that many times. They get to go on the news and make headlines as though they're doing something so good, yet the people paying for it are all the hosts that just lost all the money It's not Airbnb. Airbnb's contribution to this, virtue signaling activity of, oh, well, we're letting people cancel their reservations with no fee, or, oh, there's a Trump rally, so we're going to cancel all the reservations of people because we discriminate against Trump voters, pathetic, disgusting behavior on their part. But, it's the hosts that are paying for that. It's not Airbnb. It's like the host should get at least the credit and the positive PR, right? Is that what you were saying when you said people were upset with the platform? And tell us about that.
Yeah, exactly. I got very upset with Airbnb across exactly what you just said. They put in processes or procedures to allow guests to cancel without any question, you just say, hey, I'm not coming, give my money back. And Airbnb just sends the money to them. And the host had zero say, zero negotiations, nothing in part of their business. So they felt like they had no control over their business. Now, if you look at people and they didn't. You look at not only myself and, people in my mastermind that run hundreds of short-term rentals, they've lost tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars overnight due to Airbnb just returning their money back. And these are companies that have made millions of dollars with Airbnb. But then also the mom and pops that, they only have one or two properties, or maybe the mom and pop that had, renting out their spare bedroom to pay for their mortgage, right? Overnight, that income disappeared, right? So I was extremely upset with that. The industry was extremely upset with that. Plus everything else that you just said. It became a very politically charged. A lot of decisions were just driven through politics, but then also setting up for this IPO that they were going for towards the end of the year, right?
And I definitely want to talk about the IPO in a moment, but go ahead and just finish what you're saying on that. Yeah.
So that's where the industry got very, very upset. And I think people very quickly started realizing that we can't rely, regardless if you have one property or if you have 100, you can't rely on OTAs, online travel agencies, right? You can't rely on Airbnb or Booking.com or VRBO. You have to start building your own book of business. And it forced us to go from these individuals that quickly built these businesses on Airbnb's platform to now stepping back and saying like, oh, I got to create a real company here. I got to figure out how to acquire my own travelers. I got to figure out how to remarket to my travelers. So there was a lot of shifts that were going on, but that was the major change and what pissed off the entire hosting community. With that said, I took a step back afterwards and I'm like, man, I can't even imagine the decision making for the CEO and the executives of Airbnb to figure out how to deal with this challenge, right? To figure out how to keep this organization going with all these different cancellations and the risk that comes along with it. So not that I'm sticking up for them. What I'm saying is I feel that they took huge emotional decisions that then the result was something that they were not expecting, which was hosts revolting against them. Right. The guests were happy, but the hosts, they put so many hosts out of business by doing that. Then they rolled out a host fund where the owners of themselves have invested money and they took a bunch of cash and they created this whole political stunt, media stunt where they were paying back
another virtue signaling opportunity.
It was all politics. It was all media. And we did the math on it. And it was like, there was like less than 0.5% of hosts were going to get, a few $100 from Airbnb. I don't know anybody who got anything substantial. So it was a big political stunt.
Yeah, I just think that is just so wrong of Airbnb, the way they've handled that, because before all of this, they always ruled in against the host. It seemed like, some guest comes in, they trash your property, and Airbnb's like, they won't do anything. They just the host just has to take the pain. I've heard so many stories like that.
So let me touch on that real quick, because, even though I'm beating up Airbnb and, I was one of the individuals that were extremely upset with their decision making and their, what they put in place, we have to take a step back and realize that without them acquiring the guests, nobody on their platform has the ability to run the businesses that we could run on their platform. So at the end of the day, their number one focus. It was the mom and pop host, but very quickly in the market to compete for the travelers between Booking.com, Expedia, all these other platforms, now Google. So I do understand that they're siding with the guests. I understand that, but it unfortunately put hosts in a position where we looked at Airbnb as our partner, but now it made us look at them as just a marketing channel versus a partner, if that makes sense. I do see that changing slightly a bit. I see the dynamic changing a bit, but I think that
the dynamic moving in favor of the host. Is Airbnb like realizing without the host, they're never going to make any money? I mean,
I think they always recognize that, but at the end of the day, I think it's more important to them to acquire the right customer, which is the guest, right? Because I think, I think without really dialing that in 100%, us as hosts are going to really have a challenge building a business on their platform. But yeah, I mean, all in all, I mean, I love Airbnb, but yeah, there's still a soft spot.
What needs to happen is, we live in this world where any part of the tech world, these companies are so scalable that we have this winner take all system where, it's Airbnb is huge and then there's everybody else. Facebook is huge and then there's nobody you're paying attention to. Okay. Yep. It's just not a competitive market. And that's what needs to happen. So how do hosts build their own book of business to have that security? That's the question. And what other platforms do you like or recommend other than Airbnb?
What I love about the short-term rental industry, it's a bit different than the rest of the tech companies, right? So Airbnb is the new young kid on the block, the sexy, shiny object out there, right? That kind of reinvented the whole short-term rental industry. But they're major competitors in different markets around the country and around the world, right? So Airbnb is not as big in certain European markets compared to Booking.com. Booking.com dominates certain markets around the world, right? Then in the US, there's certain markets where Vrbo really dominates over Airbnb, right? And it's all about the traveler, right? More families and older generations go towards Vrbo or VRBO.
I never heard it called that way before. Yeah, everybody says VRBO.
Yeah, they rebranded Vrbo last year, I think it was.
Okay.
So HomeAway, VRBO, that whole organization. So there is a lot of competitors. That's the thing. And now there's more and more competitors stepping up. Google is stepping into short-term rentals as far as the marketing engine.
Google won't be a force. I just guarantee it. I mean,
I don't think it won't be as much as Airbnb because of the culture behind it.
Well, true. Airbnb's got the culture, no question. Just as an aside, not to go on a huge tangent here, but Google is a really smart but evil company. And what they do is they go into all these other businesses and they fail at almost every one of them.
Yep.
But they do that to avoid the scrutiny that they're finally getting now that they should have had over 10 years ago of antitrust violations. Mm-hmm. And they are being sued left and right now. I'm so happy to see it. I hope they get broken up. Any company that controls 90% or close to 90% of a country's search engine traffic should be broken up. That is insane that they could shape our thoughts, influence elections like they do, all of that stuff. The same is true with Facebook, Amazon, all the rest, but that's why they go into all these other businesses that always fail, because they just want to be able to say, we're not a search company. We do all this stuff. And they get the antitrust regulators off the trail, right? But fortunately, that may change soon. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm a bit ignorant on that whole thing. So I would love to, in another conversation, go deeper into that with you. Yeah, so do I think that they're going to out-compete Airbnb? No. I think Airbnb, especially with this latest IPO, they're here to stay.
Yeah.
Things are constantly changing on their platform. The owners, the founders of the company, I think are brilliant men who surround themselves with brilliant people. They ask the right questions. They take bold action. Some work out, some don't. I agree with some. I agree with, some of it I don't agree with. But I think Airbnb, of course, is the main platform. Now, so let me get back to the original question real quick. I always recommend, if you're just getting started in short-term rentals, Airbnb is the best platform to build your business. We can literally list one of your rental properties on Airbnb and start generating cash flow in a couple of hours, right? Which is insane. So I always recommend building your business on Airbnb if that's the main OTA in your marketplace. Until you get to a certain stage of your business where you have your systems, you have your teams, your clean crews, your communication teams, customer service teams, you have everything in place and you fully understand the business of short-term rentals, which is it's a hospitality business first versus anything else. It's not real estate. It's not just a real estate investment vehicle, right? It's a hospitality business. Once you build that and you get to a point where you have those systems running, then you can start expanding into these other OTAs like Booking.com, Vrbo, HomeAway, and then there's hundreds and hundreds of different websites that you can tap into. So I don't recommend going into these other OTAs until you build your business first. I always recommend Airbnb because it's the easiest way of doing it, right?
Okay, and what is the OTA acronym again?
Online Travel Agency.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah, OTA. Along with that, what I always recommend too, especially through COVID, is as you're building your business on Airbnb, you have to start building your own presence on the internet, right? You have to have your own direct booking website. And then as you get your guests in there, you're remarketing to them. So you're not relying on the OTA to bring you business.
Right. But Airbnb, at least, I'm sure the others do it too, will do everything they can to make sure you can't contact that guest directly and that you can't build a list and that you can't do this. I mean, their position is, this is our person. Yeah. We brought them to you, so we own them, right? That guest.
And it's smart. It's smart, right? It's smart. They keep it within their organization. They keep it within their sphere. So I understand why they do that. And they do an incredible job at making sure that Airbnb is the platform where you connect with the guests prior to booking. But once you book, you have access to the guests and you can communicate back and forth. And then there's tools. And this is part of the business that I was just recommending is like, once you build these systems, there's tools that automatically, as soon as you get a booking that comes in, we'll send them a link with a welcome letter like, hey, welcome, super excited to host. Click this link and give me your info so I can send you out a welcome package. So, and I have recommendations, the Wi-Fi password, how to check in, blah, blah, blah. So they click the link and they're able to upload their email, their phone number, stuff like that, which will go into a CRM that you can contact later on. But Airbnb does an incredible job at keeping the communications in their platform to keep as much revenue and control around that transaction as possible.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so anything else we should talk about as we wrap it up? Any other aspects or issues? I was kind of thinking there was another thing I wanted to ask you about, but now I can't remember.
You wanted to talk about the IPO. I'm not 100% educated on the IPO.
Oh, yeah. Well, just for a moment. So last night when I spoke to your group, your mastermind group, which, by the way, you run a great group, you said 100 million, and it actually went down a little bit. It was at 8 billion. It was at 87 billion when I looked after you said that, because I couldn't believe it. It was insane. I know that they gave hosts the opportunity to participate in that. Do you know any that did, or did you do that?
Yeah. So we chose not to do it just for the fact that we have so much going on in our business. We're starting multiple different projects and all of this, that we decided to keep our blinders on 100% into the projects that we're doing. So we actually did not invest in the IPO, but many of our legends in our mastermind have invested in it. And we're kind of blown away at the valuation right away and immediately gained some equity in their investment. So yeah, we know quite a bit of people have. And we have a community of 40,000 short-term rental hosts from around the world. And when we trying to get everyone's feeling on this, you see it split down the middle. It's like everyone is like, kind of like myself, which I'm more than happy to invest in Airbnb, and I've made lots of money with their platform, and I believe in their platform, and I do believe in their leadership behind their vision of this company. So I'm more than happy to invest into this company, and you see that people are like, hey, I made millions of dollars with them, I'll invest in this in their IPO. And then you see the other half that kind of go back to the conversation that we started with, of still kind of upset with the way that they made decisions during COVID, where they would never invest in the IPO. But
right.
all in all, it's going to be an successful venture for them. I truly believe that. The difference, in my opinion, between Airbnb and all these other unicorn startups like Uber and WeWork, well, just say Airbnb and WeWork, is Airbnb spent years building their cash reserves. So they were profitable.
Oh, WeWork was a scam. I saw that like 10 months before it all fell apart. I just knew that was a complete scam. The founder was, playing games with these office leases and pocketing the money. I mean, that guy's he should go to jail. Adam something, I can't think of his name right now, but yeah.
Yeah, he was a maniac. But the difference, in my opinion, between Airbnb and all these other IPOs is that they focused on understanding their customer. They focused on dominating the marketplace, but then they also focused on cash. They focused on profitability, which is, I didn't see any other unicorn company doing that. They just focused on scale. Airbnb, the company, is an extremely profitable company up until the last 18 months or so. So I truly believe that this is going to be a really powerful move for them. And I think that they're going to take over a huge part of the marketplace on a global. They own they own North America. I think with this IPO, they're going to move towards owning a big share of the global travel industry.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on their side of the business? Like, are they making money? Are they burning money? What does it look like for them? Some of these IPOs, they're just so ridiculous. I've had a saying for many years, and it's not exactly profound, but I guess it is nowadays. Real businesses make money. What a concept. Tell Uber and all the rest of them. I mean, it's just like these are totally speculative bubbles. It's just ridiculous, there's some of these investments.
Yeah. Jason, I mean, that's what I preach to my mastermind. That's what we preach in the accelerator, and all the content I put out there for the last 2 years is the short-term rental industry. No one, and you asked me in the beginning why the master lease model is not a great model anymore, in my opinion, why I moved away from it. No one ever focused on profitability. They only focused on revenue and scale. How many more units can I get? How fast can I scale? That's the curse of this whole VC-backed, scale as fast as possible and sell. And then whoever we sell to, it's their problem to figure it out. But we're going to show that this kind of works and that we're growing. And we're going to only focus on revenue and scale, but not on profitability. And that's something I've been preaching. And that's what we preach over and over to our mastermind group. It's like, what do we have to cut back on? Where do we got to focus on driving profit first? Shameless little plug for that book, Profit First. If you haven't read it, highly recommend reading that book.
I don't know. I wasn't that crazy about it, but
I like it because of the structure of it, right? It gives startups good structure behind their financing. Airbnb, going back to the company Airbnb, I think they're profitable. They're moving towards driving more profit in their company. They are taking a risky move where they're going to be charging the owner, the host, a bit more money for the transaction, but they make a lot of money right now, and they're going to be rolling out different ways of generating cash flow for the company on their platform by allowing different services, allowing upsells, allowing all of that transactions on their platform. So I think their model is solid. That's why they're doing extremely well. And I think they're going to be around for quite some time. And I don't think we're going to see this unicorn, bubble burst like WeWork.
Yeah, no, not like that. I agree. It's at least it's a real business for sure. So good stuff. Well, Eric, hey, thank you for all the insights. I'm glad we met a couple of years ago. You're really a pro and you know what's going on. So thank you for that. And we appreciate you being on, and give out your website.
Yeah, Jason, I appreciate the time, man. Thank you. Yeah, so for individuals that are, established in short-term rentals, check out strlegends.com. And then for the beginners that are trying to just get started or figure out the systems, check out strprofitacademy.com.
Good stuff. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason.